Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 120, recording on Wednesday, October 15th. Guest for you today is Nate Tice. He works for Yahoo. We've had him on the pod before. He hosts the podcast Football 301, covers the league from a national lens, has ties to this area from the fact that his father was a coach for this team. Nate's the man. Used to co-host the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays. Just think he looks at things from such a great lens and always appreciate his perspective. Wanted to ask him about J.J. McCarthy. Wanted to ask him about what he has thought about this Vikings season. We talked about Carson Wentz. Talked a little bit about this Eagles matchup and how he sees it, a little bit about Isaiah Rodgers. So got into a lot of different subjects that I think you guys will really enjoy, hopefully as much as I had fun having the conversation with Nate. Always makes me think about things in a fun way. So appreciate him hopping on. As always, if you're new here watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton, and you can hit the like and stuff too, and we appreciate that. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you get your podcasts, you can rate and review and follow, and all that stuff helps us out. This show is presented by First Resource Bank. If you don't know about it, they are a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area, run by some Vikings fans. Tim Siegley, Aaron Siegley, Charlie Anderson, really great people. They go to all the games. Tim has become such a just trusted, voice for me at a lot of times. So really appreciate those folks for their support. Phenomenal online banking platform. The information in the description below. Also sponsored by Unreal. That is the locally owned athleisure company here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I mean, I'm wearing it on the podcast every day now. I'm really wearing it in real life every day now. I think people who know me are like, you got to wear I had a buddy of mine who's like, what's the deal? I'm like, it's such great stuff at a, sensible price that that's kind of where we're at with Unreal. And they've also got limited edition hoodie drops. They had the first Vikings one that was not European related this week. So yeah, Unreal, really appreciate those guys for their support. So yeah, that'll do it. Without further ado, let's hop right into our conversation with Nate Tice of Yahoo. All right, Nate, welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I asked before the show, I was like, are you taping this from the training room? Because that's where I feel like every reporter has to be if they're in Minnesota. I always want to say Winter Park, but at the Vikings campus or whatever they call it, Vikings land that they have in Eagan now these days.
Yeah, it's sponsored. Like. I mean, they've got an advertisement for the whole facility, TCO. I mean, you see it. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. I never got to do Winter Park, which, okay. I mean, it sounds like it's
which was a duplex.
I really missed out. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
There's weight room was split in two. The ceilings were about 6 feet high. The Winter Park, I have a lot of memories there, but I'm sure a lot of people are happy to not be there anymore.
Yeah, and you've been out here, so you know that it is a compound or what have you. We're gonna get into some Viking stuff, but I want to actually start two non-Viking subjects. The first, okay. I know you watch all of these college quarterbacks. I mean, you do a lot with the draft. And I am a big college football guy being from Alabama. And so part of me just wanted to ask you, like, what have you thought of this college quarterback grouping? I mean, whether it's Mendoza or Dante Moore or all these guys. I just me speaking, what the heck do I know? I'm like, I haven't been blown away by a lot of these guys. So I wonder what someone who watches this kind of as part of their gig thinks of this group.
Yeah, what happened before even this season is I think some of the buzz about this quarterback class got overdone where people were like, oh, it's a generational class like we got 2 years ago. But it was there was a lot of interesting names. That's why I think people it's how it happens in the media world and
that's the
fan
job.
bases there. Yeah. And one thing where you say, oh wow, there's a lot of interesting names, like 7 guys could rise. People go, well, there's 7 first rounders, right? It's like, no. That's not what we're saying here. There's just guys that are interesting. And yeah, I would say Mendoza still is my QB1. I'll have a big board coming out in a couple weeks, just from what we've seen. But the thing is with Mendoza, it's not like I consider him a deep blue chip quarterback prospect. I consider him a good quarterback prospect. That like ideally you take in the teens, but that's not how quarterbacks work. they go way higher than they should. Way higher. I always called it the quarterback inflation. You know, you might have a second round grade. That guy gets drafted top 15. That's just kind of how it works. But no, Mendoza, Dante Moore, Lenora Sellers are kind of the three that are really interesting. Ty Simpson from Alabama actually is the guy that's probably rising a lot for me. But all these guys I consider good prospects that are not ideal perfect. Mendoza is very clean. He's got good ball placement. I think his arm's a little stronger than some people give it credit for. When he was at Cal, he was really good on third down. That Cal offense was not good. But he took a lot of sacks. Yeah, I know, right? Shocking. Although, have you seen Cal's freshman quarterback?
Yeah, that kid. Well, they played
JKS?
Minnesota.
That's right.
Yeah, so there are probably some people listening who are like, yeah, I don't want to think about this. That dude
he's unbelievable.
It's funny.
He's one of the best freshmen I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'll go on record saying that. Like, this kid is special.
That's high praise. It's so funny. After the game, or maybe before the game, Max Brosmer, who obviously played at Minnesota, we were talking in the locker room, and he was like, I really want to watch this kid play. And then I talked to him after, and he's like, I want to see that kid throw the ball in person. Like, I want to see.
It's unbelievable.
Max, you could tell Max was very impressed. And like, what do I know? But it's interesting to hear you say that. But yeah, Cal offense.
Because they have a new coordinator this year, so it's totally different. And, JKS, I was actually in Minnesota for a wedding. I was staying in Edina, and I was so the wedding happens on that Saturday. We're having like kind of a little after party. I'm with like the father of the bride and a couple other people. And he's like, oh, Goph's losing to Cal? What's going on? I go, this Cal quarterback, just watch. And it was like literally the words came out of my mouth, and then he just throws like a 30-yard rope down the field. I was like, yeah, that's why you guys are down like 3 scores, because this guy's pretty special. But getting back to Mendoza is that he took a bunch of sacks in that offense, and it's one of those where, yes, sacks we now consider a quarterback stat, and it does usually stay sticky. But it was a great example of that the offensive system and the offensive line could lead to some of that. And so that was the big blemish I had for him. And this year he's barely taken any. It's an RPO heavy offense, but when he has to drop back, he's really his ball placement. That's why I just keep coming back to. He has a little bit of Matt Ryan to him. I know Jared Goff is kind of the common comparison, but I actually think he plays like Matt, which that's the upper end comparison. It's not going to probably hit that point. But I really like him. Like, I could see him going, like, top 12, and I'm comfortable with that. Sellers is a lottery ticket who's coming along. But it's like that's a bet. That's a gamble. And
athletically, I don't know what even compares to that, really.
Right. I mean, Culpepper, Dante, but there's not a lot of guys that are 250, 240 and change. He's learning kind of like to be a passer, and it's promising what I see in some of the things, but then there's some things where it's like, okay, you just need reps. He's young for his grade too. But I'm going to fall in love with those types of guys because just look what the dudes look like right now. The top 5 guys, like you have to have that skill set. Mendoza's a fine scrambler, but he's not an overwhelming athlete, and he's not the strongest dude. He's like 6'5", but he's kind of skinny. But I think with Sellers is he's a freak. And so, like, that's the thing is if you want to buy into that, I'm excited to study him from this season. I've only watched one game on film from this season, but I've watched him on TV. So next couple of weeks, I'll have more kind of film takes on him. But there's been some nice stuff from him. And then I think Moore is probably the biggest riser. Some people are going crazy with him right now. I think, again, good prospect, not blue chip. Because, again, not overwhelming traits. And I think with quarterback play, people want to go like, oh, it's quarterbacks. You don't have to be the biggest, strongest, fastest dude. Well, you kind of do. Again, if you look at the top quarterbacks, they're all 220 plus. They all can run a little bit. They all like traits do matter. But I do think like he does a lot of good things. His accuracy's pretty good. He throws some off-platform stuff. Nothing's been overwhelming to me when I watch him. And that Oregon offense is really well schemed, so he gets some easy looks. I'm not knocking him. He's either QB2 or QB3 for me right now, but again, I have to study. And then I would say Simpson has been such a pleasant surprise.
I wondered if you watched him on film.
One game on film, the Vandy game. And like he had the early interception, and that's the thing is he'll get caught a couple times but I like that because he's got cojones, that matters. Like, and I like that. And ball comes out of his hand really nice. He's a consistent thrower, a little skinny, a little smaller, which is kind of always gonna knock him a little bit for me. But he's gonna be up there. Like, I actually prefer him. Again, this is mostly TV. I've only watched one game on film. But how he's been playing, I prefer him over Nussmeier, who I really like going into the season. But now I'm kind of like, I'm comfortable with where I have Nussmeier as kind of like early day 2 guy. Like, might squeak up into the 20s, if someone likes him. But I just mentioned traits. As much as I like his gunslinger and his mindset and everything, he's sub 6'1". He's sub 200 or sub 205. That's not, you can't be a first rounder to me. With those types of traits, even if I like a lot of aspects with him.
It's so interesting because I wanted to ask you about the college quarterbacks, and the second thing I want to ask you about was Sam Darnold, obviously, this season. And I have thought a lot about, like, with Sam, I mean, that arm is so special, and then physically and athletically, even here, you recognize it last year, like, that we joked all the time with Sam, and he joked about it back with the media of, like, you guys are always saying sneaky athletic, but, like, he is a legitimate, he's a very good athlete. And so, I mean, the conversation around, I haven't, covered this league very long, but I'm always thinking, like, instinctually, like, are the quarterbacks seeing the field? And if those guys see the field, like, I'm usually very, very on those guys' side. But I do think you look around the league, to your point, and Sam is an extension of this, of like physicality, athletically, arm talent. Like, that stuff does seemingly have to rise to a certain level right now.
Yeah, and the size stuff is, some people just think it's like, oh, you just want the statuesque, picturesque quarterback, the golden boy. It's more just physics. It's when you're in the back and you're in the pocket, it's not running over a guy. It's when you're in the pocket and that defensive lineman grabs for you, do you just go down, or do you pull away from it and then make a play? And if you watch all the top guys, and I'm not even including like Josh Allen's freakiness, I'm like guys like Drake May right now. He's 225, I'd guess, 6'4", and like guy gets an arm on him. There's a play that got called back. Defender's literally pulling his jersey. It looks like Michael Jordan's arm in Space Jam, where it's just getting stretched, and he's unfazed by it. And that came from me, and obviously I grew up around Culpepper, Gus Frerotte, Brad Johnson, all bigger guys. But I also was just kind of realistic when I looked around the league, and I just would see, I coached Derek Carr, and I would see Derek Carr would get breathed on, and he would go down. And that kind of clicked for me, where it's like, yeah, you can get a lot done with those types of guys, but that's just mini extensions, not just the run around stuff, but where you're like able to add that extra 0.2 seconds in the pocket. That matters a lot, because otherwise you become sacks and checkdowns, and you need explosive plays in this NFL. And so that's where it's not just big arm, it's just a strong, like thresholds. You don't have to be 250, but above 210. You don't have to be running a 4.5 or a 4.4, but, better than a 4.8. Like, it's just, you check those boxes. And I think it's prerequisites. And I know people rag on me a little bit about it, but it's like, this matters. Look who the good quarterbacks are. Look at their weights. They're all over 220. It's like, it's kind of easy to kind of narrow it down to that.
And it's also, it's also a durability conversation too. With the amount these guys are getting hit.
Yeah,
and it's obviously
that's
relevant.
McCarthy a little bit,
right?
Like that was one of my concerns with McCarthy, was his size. Like, it really was coming into the league.
I want to segue there.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you can recall, like, your evaluation of him coming out, but what do you remember about what you thought? Maybe you have it pulled up. I don't even know, but I just wonder what you remember.
Oh, excuse me, my 3-year-old gave me a second cold.
Natural.
He grew on me because, again, it was not a large sample size, which I know 100 people talked about. But he really grew on me because he didn't take sacks, which I think is a huge thing. But also, he was willing to push the ball in structure. He can create a little bit. He was a good athlete. Mm-hmm. I thought that got a little overhyped with some of the athleticism. I think it's more good as opposed to overwhelming. And the lack of sacks and also pushing the ball over the middle, that's going to go far away from me. I had an early second-round grade on him. He ended up, I had the same tier as him, Rattler, Penix, and then Nix. I had in the same tier, which, The Rattler one's looking pretty good right now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, or not crazy, but it's just. I mean,
he's playing totally different than I expected. Like, which is cool. Like, he's like a safe, accurate thrower, and not like this big arm guy. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, he's like 14th in success rate right now. It's unbelievable.
Side note, I think Kellen Moore does a pretty good job. And so like that's probably like, I think Kellen is probably with the and we'll end it with a little bit of Eagles for a second, but like I think that's probably a little underrated of like how just sharp that guy is and navigating it. But it's interesting to hear you have JJ kind of there. It's not surprising. I mean, I think that there were a lot of people who felt like that.
And that's where that inflation comes from. Like, I had early day 2 grades on all those guys. Like, you can even go back. They're all in that kind of 35 to 50 range for me on my big board. And that's where quarterback inflation comes. All those guys were in the first round except for Rattler. Where, okay, I understood if you took him in the 20s or where the Vikings took them. Penix was the one. Penix and Nix were a little bit more reachy to me. But again, it's the quarterback. People do weird things at the quarterback spot. But with McCarthy was... the comparison I ended up coming up with him was Rich Gannon, of all people, who actually played for the Vikings for a minute.
That's funny.
Size-wise, athleticism, the arm looseness, I would say, as a complimentary. I just knew he needed reps. I thought there was some mechanical stuff when he threw left. He was an overstrider, which happens. A lot of guys are like that. But I was more bullish on it because he's athletic, that it was like, okay, with some coaching, you can clean this up over time. If you're a big stiff like me, probably can't clean it up, but if you have a good athlete, okay, you can do that. So that was one blush. But the size thing was why I knocked him a little bit and why I knocked Daniels a little bit was because there's not a lot of long history of success for sub 205 quarterbacks. I know McCarthy weighed more at the combine, probably water weight, but it was
I don't think it's probably.
Yeah, I know. He looked a little puffy in those pictures too, and that matters to me because it's like with durability, you're taking hits. It's not, even if you're not a scrambler, you're getting whacked in that pocket 10 times a game, a dozen times a game. And those guys that hitting you are 220 pounders and they're 300, they're 290 and they can roll. So that is one of the things, because I even have looked it up, and like the history of success of sub 205 is like Kirk Cousins actually is one example. And I thought McCarthy could maybe have that skill set down the road. Cousins got to sit, remember, for a long time and then got to there. But that was one where it was Cousins with a little bit more athleticism was kind of a comparison I came to, which is like Vikings fans are like, really? But really, there's some skill set overlap with them. And then, I'm trying to think who else was there. I think Jeff Garcia was another one. Aaron Brooks was another one. And then like Joe Montana. But like the sub 205, that's like a big deal to me, because that's like, I get a little antsy because of the pocket stuff, because of the durability. So those were kind of my main blemishes, which sadly have reared their ugly head already. And I'm not trying to be negative on it and be like, oh, I was right. But those were negatives I had from that write-up, even though if I liked other aspects of McCarthy.
Yeah, and that's just why I asked you about it. And I mean, look, he's played 2 of 22 games, so there's just that. Like, I mean, there's only so much you can say. I do. I wonder I know you probably watched the film of Week 1 against the Bears and Week 2 against the Falcons, and the Falcons defense. I mean, I thought going into that game they were doing some interesting stuff. I definitely feel coming out of the Bills game, like, that defense was interesting. But I just wonder what your takeaways or thoughts were watching the first 2 weeks with JJ.
He's got to speed up the clock, and that's where the reps come from. The eyes are going the right way, which is like, okay, so you're understanding that. It's just that he has to anticipate a little bit better. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be ideal. Sometimes you have to take chances with the throw. But I actually think KOC used a great line that I've heard. I mean, it's not like the new line, but it's like something I've been like, oh, this is good, but put the ball in play. And,
loves that.
And I love that phrase, because that's something I've been trying to compliment Baker on. Baker is getting a little overhyped right now, but he is playing really well. But what the strength of Baker is, he puts the ball in play. He lets his guys have a chance on the ball. And there is something to that. Good things happen when the ball is out, because you might not be completed, but you might get a PI. You might get a illegal holding. You might get something like, good things happen when you get the ball out and you don't take sacks. So with McCarthy is, you could see the lack of reps on some of these plays, because it's just like he sees it, then it's like a 1 Mississippi, and then he throws it. So it's just trimming that fat. And that comes with reps. He's so young that's why I'm not going swayed either way. It's just kind of like I'm maintaining how I've thought about McCarthy until I see more. Because it's just like, that the only way you can improve on that is reps and game reps as well, because game speed is way different than practice speed, way different. So that's the one thing I think, if I just had to have a blemish, it's just like that, speed up that clock, because when he is in rhythm and he's feeling it, you can see the ball come out and get placed and do all the nice things. It's just, that's the thing I am just harping on when I watch him, or did watch him.
It's interesting too, because it's like, to acquire kind of more comfort in that speed, you obviously have to be on the field, and so it's like
I know it's a catch-22, man. It's so hard. I know, and they want to compete. There's a lot of vets on this roster, so it's like, I know. I was bullish on the Vikings going into this year. I had them as a playoff team because I thought if McCarthy could just be average, not even like top 16, top 22, as a quarterback, and they could roll, because I trust where this run game was going, which I'm starting to see. Even with O-line injuries. Yeah. And I'm like, this, and then, the defense is figuring out, they have to figure out how to stop the run too. I think they're getting a little too cute with some stuff. But it's like, all right, I trust the defense. I trust Flores. I trust KOC. I trust these pass catchers. I like what they're doing with the offensive line. I know injuries happened, but going into the season, so the math was mathing for me, because I thought the run game would lift everybody. It's really a lot of my analysis comes down to, can you run the ball efficiently? Can you be explosive through the air? And it's old school, but there's a lot of truth to it. And to me, it was like, well, the Vikings are figuring out the run game. I know this pass game would be explosive. He's probably going to have some blemishes, but man, that can work. It's wide open right now. They have a winning record. It's still wide open. So, the whole offense, like, I was bullish on, and like I see glimpses of why I was bullish, but it's just like injuries are a bitch.
They are. But the funny thing is, to your point, like with the run game, specifically when Jordan Mason is doing the ball carrying, they have been very efficient.
Yes.
Much more efficient than they've been in previous years. And then from an explosive pass rate, I still think they're like top 10 in the NFL, even though it feels like it's been an unbelievable slog, which is wild.
They're top 10. Yeah, they're 10th in explosive passes. So the threshold for me to make a playoff run is 14% explosive pass rate. They're at 13.8. Okay.
And it feels like it's been about as rough as it could possibly be. But, I mean, obviously against the Browns, like it was essentially quick game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all which is understandable, but you're not going to, generate explosives, even though they kind of did downfield with Justin at times.
It's kind of and that's the thing, is like you can have some negative plays if you can get them back through the air. That's why the Vikings offense was so fun with Darnold last year. They would take a sack on second down, it'd be 3rd and 16, and then they're dropping back and ripping it. And I was like, I love it, because that's my offensive philosophy. Like, so from my dad, from Denny Green, Brian Billick, to all the way to college, Paul Christ, who was like a Norv Turner guy. So like all my offensive like dogma is based on what the Vikings kind of do. And the other threshold I look at is, I say 40%, but it's really 39% rushing success rate. And on True Media, the Vikings are in 5th right now, 45.5%. So they're like close to the checking the boxes that I want to see. So that's I know you have to do it every day, but every time I think about the Vikings, I'm like, God, you guys are complicated, but it still might work. Like this still actually might come out okay if everyone gets healthy, of course.
Well, that's what, like, I spent the bye week going through everything, and I rewatched all the JJ throws, and I looked at a lot of these numbers, and it is, like, from a success rate standpoint, defensively, I think they're, like, top 5, and offensively, like, they're middling-ish, so it's been very hard to, it's
like
interesting.
The sky is falling, right?
Yeah,
it's just kind of like,
right.
This is complicated. They're 3-2. Also, it's like, I know that's how I feel when as a national guy talking about them, I'm analyzing them. I'm like, what do I do with you guys? Like, I don't know where to bucket them right now.
I'm curious, like with Carson Wentz, what has been your arc of like watching this guy over time and how you've thought about him?
Okay, I was being positive. He's one of my least favorite players to watch. Because it's just, too many scary hits, too many like it's horrifying to watch, and I'm like, why do you do this to yourself? Because he can avoid them. Like there's times where he's just always just trying to extend the play. The Browns play, I know a lot of people highlighted it, where like he misses J.J. McCarthy over the middle in the red zone, and then like he gets hit, like he's double clutching, and it's like that play was designed to go to Justin Jefferson. I think I said McCarthy there, but it goes to Jefferson over the middle. Yeah. But it would go to Jefferson over the middle, and it was like, why aren't you throwing to the best receiver in the game on a red zone play designed for him? Why are you double clutching this? So He's a high wire act. There's going to be some highs because he's going to chuck it and put the ball in play, but he's also going to just take some hits and take some sacks where it's like, just get rid of the freaking ball. We saw the spin move against the Cleveland Browns. I thought that had been retired. It was like, oh man. And then afterwards he was on the injury report. I'm like, yeah, I know why. Like, it's because he took, there's one sequence that he took 3 hits in a row that probably would have knocked out most guys. And I'm like, can't be living this way, man. I appreciate the effort, but man, you can't be living this way.
Especially, I mean, at this age. But yeah, it is. It's like spinning out, turtling up, taking hits, shoulder,
ducking under guys.
Yeah,
I know.
You're like, hey, like you're not like made of drywall. Like, I don't know. It's scary.
It really is. I know. That's part of quarterback play, man. It's like saving yourself those hits. That's why like Jane Daniels has got to he's got to learn how to do that too. He's trying to. But you can tell like how he plays is how he plays. That's how he's won his whole life. And now he's like, oh, I got to temper down some of these hits I take. But if you want to play for a decade, that's what you got to do. If you want to be a starter for 100 games, like that's how you have to play. So I know that's why Wentz to me, because he's been hurt. Usually after you get hurt, you learn. But he just keeps on doing it.
And serious injuries like I mean, concussions. And I mean, so it's interesting. You mentioned the run defense. Is there anything else with this team, and maybe it is that has, caught your eye or that you've been interested by?
Yeah, just the usage of defense, like their personnel was really funky, like who they had out there, not just like the Metella stuff, but they were like in base. I'm trying to remember if they were in base a lot more than they should have been. Like it was weird. Like they had some interesting personnel usages. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But up front, you could see early on, you could definitely see Hargrave and Allen winning some of those one-on-ones. But that's the thing with Allen sometimes is he can go rogue. And this is a very aggressive defense that moves guys and has guys slanting and everything. I really like to see what I consider good coaches like KOC and Brian Flores, what they do after bye weeks. Because now they understand their personnel. We got some data points. Okay, how are we going to use this version of our defense? So really, it's kind of like a non-answer. It's like I want to see what it looks like afterwards, but also I want to give myself a little feather in my cap as I predicted Isaiah Rodgers as the breakout player for the Vikings this year, and he's been one of my more favorite players to watch, like bar none. Like not just because a random guy, he's been literally the fastest player in the NFL this year, but just making plays week in week out. So I'll give credit to the Vikings, whether Flores is input on this or not.
Oh yeah, there's input.
Yeah, I'm sure. But like the Van Ginkel signings, the Isaiah Rodgers signings, like these little kind of like middle class signings that the Vikings have made are just like they're reaping the rewards of it. And that just takes effort to realize what fits in your defense or fits in your offense. So I'll give a credit to the coaches and the pro personnel staff for like IDing these guys. Cause I was like, Rodgers is decent. I'm curious why the Eagles are letting him go. Like Howie's always right. That's what everyone tells everybody. Why are they letting him go? Because I thought he was a starting corner, and so it's cool to see him kind of like be that this year.
There's no question that they have. I mean, you said it, Van Ginkel. I mean, Grenard and the signing that they had with it. I mean, it's Darnold last year. Murphy. I mean, it has been, and really, they have no other choice because they've taken 13 defensive players, and none of them are starters right now. So for the defense to rise to a certain level, it has to happen. But it was good, smart identification by you because Rodgers, I mean, it is really everything. Like the speed, the ball skills. Yeah. He's competitive. Like at the catch point, I mean, the turnovers speak for themselves in the greatest game ever played against the Bengals. But it is. I mean, it's funny. I was watching the Eagles defense, and you're watching Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo, and you're like, man, like you just can't fathom how much more comfort Vic Fangio would have if he had Isaiah Rodgers out there. And that I'll end there. But like, I'm sure you've done a lot of Eagles conversation because it's the conversation kind of across the league. Like as you watch them offensively, defensively, because this is the matchup this weekend, what has been the thing that you focused most on?
Well, yeah, the offense stuff I've already kind of like I'm good on because it's been the same conversation for 4 years now. And it's just more like everyone's takeaways nationally or whatever is after what the results are. It's not an issue when they're winning, but when they lose, it's the same offense. It's the same offensive passing game. It's the same weaknesses of it. Jalen Hurts isn't going to throw over the middle. It's all very dependent on go balls. So it basically comes down whether to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith can win downfield. And that's really what their offensive success comes down to. Their O-line is taking a step back this year. It's still good. Still very good in pass pro, but it's not overwhelming like it was the last couple of years, but still good. Like it's still like a top 10 run game with Saquon Barkley and everything. But the passing game is still going to be scattershot. It's not an efficient passing game. They don't want to attack underneath. They try to get some more RPOs, but you could even see last week against the Broncos that it was, or so I guess it's 2 weeks now, against the Broncos was that they were really starting to play those RPOs. Like they were starting to understand what was coming and everything. That's the limitation of RPOs, is that over time defenses go, oh, okay. Okay, we got this. And then you're screwed. But then also defensively, also have taken a step back. They've lost a lot of guys. They're younger. They have two DBs, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, that are stars. Cooper DeJean might be the best tackling DB in the NFL.
He is so unafraid.
Believable.
I was watching, like, he'll just stick his face in the fan with no fear at all, and it's very impressive.
And Mitchell is playing like an all-pro this year. They're having him travel a little bit, which I think will be interesting this game. So it might be an Addison game. It might be a Naylor game. It might be, a secondary pass catcher game, I think would be the best way to put it. Because like you mentioned, corner 2 is bad. I don't even need to name a name. Whoever is starting opposite of Mitchell is bad. Like you can look what the Giants did with Jackson Dart and everything. Like without neighbors, they were just targeting whoever Ringo was.
It was Humphrey, or I was like, I don't even know who I'm watching. 89 with like flowy hair. I'm like, what even is this? But it's working.
It is. I know, because it's
and
a
it was just like
league.
quick outs. They were just spamming quick outs. It was like 5 yards efficiency on first down the whole game.
Just stop routes, just over and over. Just quick stuff, 5, 8, 10-yard throws over and over. I know. So it's like, that's always going to be available. I think, Jalen Carter, whatever happened with him last Thursday, if he plays, he's still good. But you can run on this team. The Rams had a lot of success running on them. And also the plays that worked against this defense are the ones that the Vikings want to run anyways. Zone. So like you could really run outside zone on this team. And again, that's kind of conducive to KOC and what they want to do, and Jordan Mason. So you can, this Eagles team is very gettable. I know even outside of, I still think they're good. I still think I always call them the Enron team. They just have too much talent to fail. They're too big to fail.
Phenomenal.
Even if it's not perfect, even if I look at stuff, it's like, yeah, but they look at this guy. They can just dial up these plays, and same on defense. But they are gettable, and I actually think a term I use is a natural answer. The Vikings have natural answers, especially offensively, to even with Carson Wentz, even with the battered offensive line, to get after this defense, because there's very pickable parts.
It does feel like to me too. Like I watching the film, I thought like Ojomo's pretty good. The interior defensive guy, I thought he was pretty good. Jalix Hunt's interesting. Like but I mean it's the defense. From a personnel perspective, it just feels like they are, and then like not having Landon up front offensively in terms of what they want to do in the run game.
Alabama guy, first name basis.
Yeah. I mean, it's What do you think I'm going to say? But no, it's going to be interesting, because my feel with this game is you either get the Eagles are it's just a disaster that they can't really corral, or they are trying to prove.
This is the mouthwash game. Everything's fine. Yep.
Right. And it's and I will say the Vikings defense plays much better at home with the crowd noise, and they'll have Blake Cashman back. It feels like potentially at linebacker, which would be huge. So it'll be interesting. But no, that's about all I had. The college stuff was fun, and then Darnold. I mean, we didn't talk about it a ton, but it's just, I mean, watching that guy throw the football to JSN right now, it's wild.
They've trimmed all the fat in that offense. It's everything he's good at, and he's ripping it. I pointed that sacks and his scramble rate's the lowest it's ever been in his career, and that's kind of indicative of how he's playing. Like he's really not having to rely on his legs. He's not scattershot. He's knowing where to go with the ball. It's been cool to watch. That Seahawks offense, the passing game is really fun to watch right now.
I looked at PFF big time throw rate. He's at 7%. It's right behind Josh Allen, and then his turnover worthy play rate's the lowest in the NFL, 1.1. So it's
only been a couple.
They've gotten the home runs without the strikeouts as much, which is it's fascinating. Nate, appreciate it. Always fun. Thanks for hopping on. And where can people listen to you every multiple times a week? Plug
multiple times a week. Yeah, Football 301. Check us out. I'm over at Yahoo. Charles McDonald, Matt Harmon. We had our Tuesday pod, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Sundays. So you can check us out on that. Yeah, and some written stuff that you can check out on Yahoo as well.
Big board coming soon. I'll be reading that.
Next time you see me, my eyes will be dark red. I'll have rings under my eyes.
You and Dane, I don't know how you. I mean, the film, like, and you try to do as much film watch as you can. I don't know how you guys consume it, but it's part of it.
Consistency.
It's the job. It's the job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks for having me.
And that'll do it for episode 120 of the Alec Lewis Show. Appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you, and you can follow and rate and review and all that good stuff. If you missed it, we've had stories at The Athletic, nonstop, day to day, covering the team as best I can through the writing format, and then also do this podcast, which we're going to have one more show with a full locked-in preview of the Eagles game with Zach Bourbon, my colleague at The Athletic, who does a hell of a job covering the Eagles. We'll have that later this week, either probably Friday, Saturday, whenever it hits your feed. It'll be a surprise, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. But presented by First Resource Bank, member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. Their information is in the description. Great online banking platform, branches all over the place with really good people who care about this community. So if you're looking for a bank, I would really go check out First Resource. You won't be disappointed. And then Unreal, check out their limited edition drops, and then all of their clothes. Their link to their website is in the description. I can't speak about it enough. I've told them before we partner for the season, I like the stuff. So as much as I can support it, I'd love to. But thank you guys for being here for episode 120. We will talk to you very, very soon.